whatsoever for a funeral, left no instructions. Finally, the Duke and Duchess of Devonshire very generously, in my estimation, stepped in, offered to have her buried at their home, offered to have the service in their family chapel, and even offered to have a Catholic priest say the service. The ambassador did attend as the only member of his family. He did not speak to the Devonshires nor to the priest, and left. And she was buried there, where she remains. And the awful postscript of that story, and I hate this because I'm a Catholic as well, says supposedly afterwards Mrs. Kennedy sent out prayer cards for the souls in purgatory who could never get to heaven, and sent those out to all of Kick's friends who were appalled by it. Again, it's a different era. I'm not at all trying to disparage her in any way, but it's a very, very sad case all the way around. This is the last one, and it ends here in Palm Beach. This is Bessie Strong, Bessie Rockefeller Strong. She was the favorite child of John D. Rockefeller Sr. Very, very bright. She graduated from Vassar. She married the son of their Baptist minister in Cleveland, Ohio, but they decided that they really wanted to be away from both their families, so they moved to Paris. She had just one child, Margaret, and then died when Margaret was only 9 years old. Margaret and her father loved one another, but of course he wasn't particularly equipped to deal with a young girl. And so after she came of age, she was sent to Paris to live. Here she is in the bottom, Margaret. And she met the man on the top, George de Cuevas. Now, George de Cuevas had been from a family in Chile. He had moved to Paris, and he had met this gentleman and had been sort of a protege of his. That's Prince Felix Yusupov, who had been the assassin of Rasputin, and his wife, Irina. He was a great centerpiece, if you will, for the White Russians who were in Paris. He helped de Cuevas a great deal, and de Cuevas worked in their shop. It's actually a dress shop. Margaret came in one day to buy something and said to de Cuevas, "What do you do here?" And he said, "I'm the sales lady." She was charmed, and they actually were married. With her money, of course, he became a great patron of ballet. He took over the Ballet de Monte Carlo, actually renamed it for himself, and with his wife's money, he did also acquire a title. He became a marquis or a marquis, depending on which country you're from. Although the order, and I've seen it, it was neither sealed nor signed. So most people would actually say, that it wasn't real, and most, of course, the legitimate nobility. I'm sorry, I still can't. Oh, I'm sorry, my fault. I shouldn't have been leaning so far back. I'm sorry. Anyway, most people would say, of course, that the legitimate nobility laughed at his pretensions because his title really wasn't real, but they were called, he was called the Marquis de Cuevas. He renamed the ballet for himself, did a brilliant job with it by all estimations. His wife was not nearly as interested in it as he was, but of course it was her funds that supported it. He gave a great ball in 1953 in Biarritz, invited 4,000 people, and 2,000 came. It was said that he was trying to outdo one that had been given 2 years before by one of his rivals. His wife had a beautiful costume designed for herself for the evening, but at the last minute she decided that she didn't approve of all this excess, and she didn't attend, actually. He had his entire ballet, by the way, dancing on a raft in the middle of a lake while fireworks went off behind it as well. He was a great friend of Elsa Maxwell, who of course loved to write about the things that he was doing. This was their home in Italy, the Villa Fiesole. Now this gentleman, some of you probably remember or know, Raimundo de Lorraine. He was the protege of George de Cuevas, by many estimations his lover. Some disagree, but most do not. Much younger. He was also Chilean. After he became de Cuevas' partner or protege, he also started calling himself a marquis as well. And there was no basis for that whatsoever. But this is the woman who sort of became his sponsor, the Viscountess Jacqueline de Rive. He became known for sort of giving her that sleek look. She, in turn, was known for introducing him to all of the right people. And at the end of de Cuevas' life, he actually hired Lorraine to do a lot of the costumes, the set designs, all that sort of thing. And when de Cuevas died, rather than closing down the ballet, his wife asked Lorraine to take it over and to run it. He did, and for about a couple of years, Margaret continued funding it, but even she then pulled funding. And then this is when it really gets interesting, as some of you here in Palm Beach know. They came here, and as a great surprise to the family, the two were married. Raimunda de Lorraine was 42, Margaret Strong de Cuevas was 80. Her family was not notified. Her two children found out about it by reading it in the newspaper. He cut off most, on the one side, he cut off most contact with her, with old friends, doctors, or children. On the other side, he did actually greatly increase her life position, if you will, in that she had never looked after her health, the way she looked, anything like that, and he did a great deal in that regard for her. So I suppose there were some trade-offs. However, when she died, it was discovered that she had completely changed her will, leaving him everything and nothing to her two children. And the reason this was particularly interesting was her grandfather, John D. Rockefeller, of course, had given all of his money away to his sons while he was still alive. But as an older man, he actually made a second small fortune of about $26 million that was completely separate from what he gave his sons. And because Margaret was his favorite grandchild, he left it all to her. And he even said in the will, to the exclusion of my other grandchildren. So this was a very large fortune that she had been left. Anyway, lots and lots of litigation ensued. Finally, he gave back some of the things. They did show, of course, that she was sedated for much of her later years, and it was very, very nasty. But that they did settle out of court. And then in 1988, he died of AIDS. But they did live here in Palm Beach, first in a home and then an apartment at Mike built it. What's that building called?
Dunster House.
Dunster House?
Dunster House.
Right, over right on the ocean was their last home. So, anyway, that's a lot of information to get in a short period of time, and I tried to hold it down to the time. So let me ask you now about questions and see if there's anything I can answer for you about any of them that I mentioned or any that I didn't.
That's great. I don't know if it's possible. I think that's even better than the last one, Greg. I mean, I just was entranced. We have some questions. Oh, they're always slow to get off the mat with these questions. I never see a bill. What are you working on right now?
Actually, I'm working on a nonfiction story of a murder, a biracial murder that took place in Georgia, pre-civil rights Georgia. It sounds strange, but it sounds not strange rather, but it's actually a very interesting one. But we'll come back and tell you about that.
Okay, good. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
see.
Are there any interesting romances going on right now in the same vein?
Oh, tons of them. Tons of them. You know, just read your People magazine or something. Actually, today, I think it doesn't mean nearly as much as it once did to have a title. Plus, of course, all of those huge fortunes have been whittled down over the years, particularly now. No thanks to Mr. Madoff, but anyway, it's quite different. So yes, those things are happening all over the place. One of the things it's been interesting to me is to watch the unmarried heirs to the European thrones, because there are 10 or 12 over the last decade who have not even been married, and those have started to marry as well. And to me, interestingly enough, they're choosing almost entirely commoners. They're not marrying, you know, within the class, if you will. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but it just seems to be the case. Anything else? If not, I'm going to hang around anyway to sign some books, and so I'll be glad to answer anything you come up with.
Rick, thank you so much. That was really